There we go. Now I got it. Okay. So this is the Wednesday, October 25th meeting of the Open Space Committee for the town of Lunenburg. We have a quorum. We actually have all of our members here tonight, which is great. In accordance with the requirements of open meeting law as amended by Governor Healy's extension of the ability to hold these meetings remotely, we are holding this meeting remotely, and it's being recorded and broadcast live over Lunenburg Public Access Channel and on Facebook Live. The meeting number for this evening on Zoom is 766-316-7606. If you are, I don't see anyone else besides us, but if there are any of the public present, if you're on the telephone, you can dial *9 to request, to speak after joining the meeting. And if you're on the computer, if you're on Zoom, just raise your hand and we will acknowledge you. So with that, I'm Mike Toohill, the chair of the Open Space Committee. We have Eric Hines, Brandon Kibbe, Mary Wilson, Matthew Allison, and Anna Lockwood with us this evening. So we have all the members of the committee with us this evening, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first item of discussion is one that we've had on a number of our agendas over the past couple of years, maybe at this point, and is discussion of the parcels that abut Lake Shirley and the potential use of these publicly owned parcels for open space access to Lake Shirley. So I want to give you guys just a quick report on this. Mary and I, a while ago, went out and took a look at both the Parmenter Road and the Zero Shirley Lake Reservoir Lake Road, which is we also call a Stump Cove. So we took a look at both of those, and I've had several meetings with town council. Just for everybody's recollection, the Parmenter Road, the title is clear. It's a small parcel that the town does own. There have been some encroachments on the parcel from both sides. Mary and I noted some additional encroachments while we were out there. So that would be an issue that would have to be resolved if this is going to be truly used for public access to the lake. That particular parcel raised a lot of questions from the abutting homeowners in the area as to whether or not that was an appropriate location for access. And by access, we're talking about, kayaks and canoes. We're not talking about a boat launch, just to be clear. That came up several times. But this is carry-in, kayaks, canoes. It could be, as we've mentioned in previous meetings, for those that need it, it could be a small trailer behind a car carrying a kayak or a canoe. But this is all hand launch is what we're talking about. So that one parcel has some opportunity. It has some challenges. There is a drainage easement there. There are some steep slopes. There's an area that's, and I forget the house numbers, but the house to the right, as opposed to the house to the left, there's actually a flatter access coming down towards the lake, but it comes down right near, those folks have a wall down by the pond, and it comes in very close to that wall. So that's kind of the long and the short of the Parmenter Road parcel. I want to just jump over real quick to the Shirley Reservoir Lake parcel. It's larger. It's a 3-acre parcel. It's a parcel that's currently being used by residents and maybe non-residents to access Lake Shirley directly off Reservoir Road, which is less than ideal from a public safety standpoint. I know you can get into the lake at that point, but it's kind of a tough place to be parking vehicles. A number of us have been out there. Like I said, Mary and I were out there a while ago, and we have noted, and I've been out there with some of the neighbors as well. There actually are a couple other really good access locations on that parcel. If you were to go down, I think it's Fire Road 12 is the side road. If you were to go down Fire Road 12, immediately on the left-hand side, there was a little dirt road, for lack of a better term, that actually used to come all the way up to Reservoir Road, but the DPW has blocked that off over the years. But if you go down Fire Road 12, it's still a nice flat area. where you can pull down that dirt road, and it's a relatively gentle slope going down through the woods to get down to the lake at that point. Also further down Fire Road 12, one of the abutters has kindly built a parking area on town land immediately adjacent to the lake, which of course they're using for other purposes, but boat storage and wood storage and things like that. But it's on town land, and there's a rather gentle slope there as well. It doesn't go into a main channel. It'd be a little more challenging with a kayak. It's not a problem. It'd be a little bit more challenging to get into deeper water at that point. And I just, like I said, I met with town council several times, and I've had kind of side discussions with the town manager as well. And town council, based on, we had a title review done, and based on the title review and based on the age that we're talking about of when things happened out there, which I think was in 1953 and 1974, something like that, years and years and years ago. Town council is comfortable that that is a town-owned parcel, and we don't have to worry about additional parties coming in and claiming ownership of that parcel. So they would have as hard a time as we had in proving title. So he's very comfortable that we the town could use that parcel pretty much free and clear. So that's where we stand on those two. And I'd like to open it up to any of the committee members for further discussion before I have a motion that I'd like to entertain after we get through discussion. So anybody want to speak on either of these two parcels? Brandon.
As much as I tend to agree with the town council's perspective on the Zero Reservoir Road parcel from a pragmatic standpoint, one of the issues we would face if we were to pursue, I think we've talked in the past, some partnership with, potentially a state agency or something that could help provide some funding, Office of Fishing and Boating Access, for instance, or an entity like that. I know what they've said in the past is one of the things you have to be able to prove to them to sort of take things forward is clear title. So, a title matter there could, without being able to perfectly demonstrate, that could muddy the state's participation in that. Short of, and I don't know what you may have gotten from town council if he was willing to put anything in writing, or say, some sort of opinion that we could, waive to, a potential partner there if that was something we were going to pursue. So, or someone was going to pursue. So I think that's just a point of clarification there, is that we may have, a good opportunity there to do whatever we might want to do. We might have a difficult time if we wanted to bring in outside partners, which a state agency. Just flagging that.
Right. And thank you. I think no, I did not get anything in writing from town council, but I've had several discussions with town council and also through town council with the town manager. And like I said, they're comfortable that because this property was taken for taxes and it was foreclosed upon and it was all done, properly in a town meeting and everything, that this would pass muster.
Mike, I have a question. So, and that I just want to clarify between what you're saying and what I think Brandon's saying. And I think the way you presented the information that town council gave. So for example, if we want to go to town meeting, well, first thing is when we try to look for these partnerships and get grants from the state, I think you have to prove that you have title to that property. Like, for Marshall, we have had to submit, copy of the deed.
Right.
Do we have copy of the deed that says Town of Lunenburg?
No, we have a tax taking in 1957 and we have a foreclosure in 1974.
Okay. Can,
And they did an extensive, the town of Lunenburg through the Open Space Committee paid for a title examiner. There is no deed on record that says that, this is the town's property, but we have these other pieces of information.
And from a tax title foreclosure standpoint, those are sufficient to, but the problem is, when you take that back, and this is the whole issue that was brought out in the title report was, yes, there was a taking and yes, there was a foreclosure, but foreclosing what? it wasn't well described.
Correct.
And typically when you see a tax taking and a foreclosure, it references a deed book and page, which has an owner with a grantor and a grantee and an actual deed reference. And so you could say, okay, they foreclosed that particular parcel. This foreclosure doesn't say that. It says, against whoever the owner was at the time. It says,
Montagne.
taking land of Montagne.
so I'm just gonna keep going down the path that I kind of like, so I know, if I could. So with the documentation of taking, foreclosuring for lack of payment of taxes, we haven't registered the title. Can we go and do that process now? Because I know that's another step. Is it the case that we can explore that option now?
There is a step that we can take through town meeting to do that. And Adam Costa said his opinion is he doesn't see that that's a necessary step.
Right. I think so. Exploring this idea, and it's good to hear that we could do that step, because I think is what we decide to do with this parcel becomes a decision if that's a necessary step or not.
Mhm.
So, for example, if we decide that we want to develop this into a park, right? If it's going to put under the current control of the Parks Commission, I can, maybe this would be something that then the Parks Commission can take over if that is a way to do it.
Right.
But at that point, we probably would like to explore the idea of getting that title so that when we apply for grants, I'm exploring grants now, and there's possibilities of, up to $2 million in grants, mostly funded through the state. So I think it becomes, if town council believes we can get that clear title and the disposition of this property is going to be something that we want to do, have active recreation, that's, then that becomes a Parks Commission issue later on. So that's you, in short, you clarified my question, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, and I understand all that, and part of the issue is that a survey would have to be accomplished, and it would be fairly expensive to do a survey of this property, because the property through the taking and everything became complicated because some of these parcels were involved when Lake Shirley Dam was built and expanded. And so the property boundaries are muddied, for lack of a better term. So to be able to have a surveyor, we'd have to hire a survey company to go out and do a boundary survey of this parcel, which given the record becomes problematic.
But it's that the town council believes to be doable.
Town council's opinion is that we don't need to go through this step.
Except if the disposition of this parcel is to become, I'm just going down this road as an example. Except if we decide the
parcel is held as general municipal land. And according to the town manager, that's how it would be held, even if it was going to be used for active or passive recreation. It would be held as general municipal land. That what I understand is that the Parks and Rec Board does not hold land. It's different than the Conservation Commission. It's held by the Board of Selectmen as general municipal.
I think it's a little more nuanced than that. I think there's another layer to that.
It's similar, Mike, to the Conservation Commission. The Parks and Commission can hold care and control. It's under a different Mass General Law chapter. But I know when we acquired the Saliba parcel, and we acquired the north side under the care and control of the Conservation Commission, Table Rock Conservation Area, we acquired the south side under the care and control of the Parks Commission, Northfield Park. So there was the ability to acquire under each kind of controlling entity by Mass General Law. Is, you know, Conservation Commission's chapter 40, section 8C, I think, if I remember right. And then I want to say Parks is chapter 47 or 48, if I'm remembering right. But we can go to those deeds and look at those references, but they can own under the care and control of.
Right. And I think it's more, so I think what the town manager might be saying, it might be something a little more settled into, like, the land maybe technically is under, a municipal land,
Mhm.
but it is of exclusive care and control of Parks Commission. So at that point, like for Marshall, the land for Marshall does say the town of Lunenburg, but it is to be indefinitely parked as part of a park. And our charter has a Parks Commission that's responsible for parks, one way or the other. But what I know is if we go to apply for grants, we would need to have, to be able to show a deed that says the town of Lunenburg, and we would need to have a town vote to dedicate the land to be in perpetuity, which is as a active recreation. So, and again, it's all about what we decide to do with the land,
Right.
if we need to go down that path.
Mary, Eric, Matthew, do you have anything you want to add into this?
The only thing that and you may have said it, so I apologize if I lost track. In the Parmenter Road parcel, I believe that, and by the way, I'm an advocate of parks. These parcels moving over to parks, and that they control it for the benefit of the town. I believe there's a lot of opportunity there. But in the Parmenter Road parcel particularly, it does seem like right now there's unmanaged access happening that's damaging the 30-foot no touch zone. There's erosion coming down the hill from what looks like maybe ATV ruts. Presumably residents are down there, using that parcel for their own access of the lake. And I believe putting this in the control of parks so that we have managed access would be much better for the conservation interests of that resource area.
Oh, I agree. I mean, the neighbor has a dog run on the property.
Right. Yeah.
And the other neighbor has a shed on that property, and they had a septic tank there
And a fence.
and a fence, and that was removed. But as far as little as maybe a month ago, because I drove by both of those properties, they had taken the septic out, but they had not done anything they had not put the land back to where it should be, including the erosion control was still there. There was still, the fencing for erosion control, but there's still a lot of erosion on that area because we have had a lot of rain, and they did not throw anything to grow there. So it's just dirt with growing weeds. So it's more runoff. Mike, I am trying to log in through my computer. I might be in the waiting room. Can you switch me?
I was
I'm
going to ask
sorry.
you about that because I'm talking to you here and it's saying that it wants me to admit you. So do you want me to admit you?
Yes, please. And I think Zoom now does this automatically.
While you're doing administrative things, I had text from Matthew that he can't, he's on his phone and he can't seem to get himself unmuted. Do you have as a host, do you have the capability to unmute him?
The very good. Oh. Now I've got feedback coming on. Matthew was on before when Eric and I were first on, and we were having a hard time hearing him. He was breaking up something awful.
Okay.
So let me see if he is muted. No, all it says is I can do is ask him to unmute.
Well,
That's all I see.
if Matt has anything to add, I'll tell him to text me. And
Yeah,
I'll
there you go.
speak on his behalf.
Okay. So I had a suggestion for the committee's consideration. We are not, we're an open space committee. We are not Park and Rec committee. We don't hold land. There's a lot of things that we do and don't do. But one of the things we can do is make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and to the Planning Board. And I was wondering if this committee would want to make a recommendation to those boards for them to bring up this issue and have discussions with Park and Rec directly. Because if we're talking about having this be access to Lake Shirley, it does fall most naturally under Park and Rec, not open space. So I think it's time, quite honestly, for this committee to boot this to the next level.
Well, would that come with a recommendation?
I would suggest that it does.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's all we've been talking about. We've been talking about using these for active recreation, specifically for carry-in, for, kayaks. We've, as Mary noted, and as Anna noted, we have some problems on the Parmenter Road parcel, which the Board of Selectmen need to be aware of, because they were certainly involved in the original discussions when the septic system and the fence and everything had to be moved off that parcel. I don't know if they even know that there's a shed now on that parcel, and there's a dog run on that parcel, and there's ATV access coming in off that road. I don't know if they know those things. That's certainly something that we could, make them aware of and make a recommendation that probably the highest and best use for these two parcels is public access to the lake, recreation. But I don't know how the other members feel. I think it's beyond our purview to enforce anything out here, or to propose, or to actually take on the responsibility for instituting any kind of public access to these parcels.
So mine is more of a question of capacity. And I'm asking this question to Anna, is if we make such a recommendation at this time, with the other things that you have and the commission has going on with Marshall Park and other activities, is this a good time for this debate to rage?
Well, so I think the answer to that is yes.
Okay.
And I'll elaborate because I think this commission has done a lot of work. I remember the work that Paula did to search deeds. I mean, I think this has been a 2-year project. And I think we just need to, all of these projects, we have Marshall Park, we have McNally, we have Northfield Park, and Des. All these things, you really just as with zoning, you got to have a vision, a 20-year down the line vision for all these things to happen. It's not about tomorrow, next year. Is really a long-term plan. And that's what I think, the open space document that we have kind of lays out of that. It's a 5-year, but I see all these things happening more in a 20-year plan. And we need to move this ball to the next person for this project to keep, if it ever is going to come to fruition, we need to get to the next step. And when will that be the next step? Once we pass the ball to the next group, if the recommendation is to pass it on to Parks and Rec, then there'll be, we already have had a vote that we would like to have that. We would like to have, access to Lake Shirley, would like to explore. We didn't say what we were going to do. We just said yes to that question.
We meaning Park and Rec had a vote or open space? had a
Yes,
vote?
Park
Thank
and Rec
you.
did had a vote. Thanks for
Okay.
the clarification. And once that happens, and I think the open space, I don't know how we would make a recommendation. Perhaps we want to plan a meeting with the select board of this commission, the select board, so that if the select board has questions, we can answer them as a group.
Mhm.
And then they can ponder on that, because it's an internal thing. And we're probably looking into town meeting 2025 to bring this to town meeting, to move this to a park or not. But them having that vote, having that determination opens up for us to then, the next step would be a town meeting vote, if that's what we want. But it does allow us, because park does have a budget, it does allow us to request for the property to be surveyed as a part of capital plan. That's what we did with Marshall. Marshall, we did request $30,000 for the survey of Marshall. We requested money for conceptual design of McNally. So yes, I think it's time to pass on the ball, so for these other things to evolve. It's my thought on that. And it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I'll tell you, this will likely fall into Parks' third or fourth priority, because we have Marshall, we have McNally, which is going to be a smaller project, in Northfield. So this will probably be our fourth priority, but it's something, we actually have a 10-year plan for capital plan requests that we've been working on. So this will probably be a 10-year plan, and I might be long gone.
So, would the motion be to recommend the select board engage in a conversation with the Parks Commission to explore the transfer of the care and control of this? Or would we want to recommend that the select board transfer the care and control of these parcels to the Parks Commission for this process?
So I
How
think,
specific would you like it?
so if you were asking me, I don't know if you're asking me or Mike, but I think the recommendation from this board should be to pass it on to control, if that is our recommendation, because that
Right.
is our role. And we might need to have a meeting with them to explain
Mhm.
why we feel that way, but that is our role, is to make recommendations. And then the ball is off of this group. And then it will be upon Parks Commission to work on that, to figure out the next step. And I think the next steps would be, eventually this will need to come to town meeting, because transfer of land within town, it takes a town meeting vote only. And when we do that, that's when we'll be able to explore use the park budget to explore some of these scenarios. And
Okay.
if we don't put these things in chapter of protection, again, it would just take a town meeting vote to push it back to general town land.
Right. Okay, I will make a recommendation or a motion, excuse me. I move that the Open Space Committee recommend to the Board of Selectmen that they transfer the care and control of both the aforementioned parcels of Table Rock, not, excuse me, Table Rock, I'm looking at something else, of the Zero Shirley Road and the Parmenter Road parcels that are owned as general municipal land by the town of Lunenburg to the care and control of the Parks Commission, subject to town meeting approval.
Brandon, I think you said Zero Shirley Road. It's Reservoir Road, isn't it?
I think it's Zero Shirley Reservoir Road, but yes, the parcels that are, I wish I had the map and parcel numbers.
So I have the parcel numbers if it's all right.
I'll take that as a friendly amendment.
We're talking, as a friendly amendment, we're talking about 51 Parmenter Road, parcel 136-0006, which is a 0.31 acre parcel with 39 feet of frontage on Lake Shirley. And we're talking about Zero Shirley Reservoir Lake off Reservoir Road, which is parcel 137-0012, which is a 3.3 acre parcel with significant frontage. I don't have an exact number. On Lake Shirley off Reservoir Road and Fire Road 12.
So Zero Shirley Reservoir
Yeah.
Lake.
I can email this to you, Brendan, if you're doing minutes for.
Just read me the parcel numbers one more time if you would.
Yeah. Parcel 136-0006. That's Parmenter. And
Yep.
parcel 137-0012. That's Zero Shirley Reservoir Lake.
Okay. So Kitty, let me just write this down. Motion. Recommend to Board of Selectmen.
I think it's a select board.
Select Board, excuse me.
Mhm.
That's a more politically correct way to say it. Select Board.
Or a less
Recommend.
archaic way.
Yeah, less archaic. Thank you. That's a better way to say it. Recommend to Select Board to transfer care and control 51 Parmenter Road. Assessor parcel 136-0006 and Zero Shirley Lake Road, assessor parcel 137-0012 to the Parks Commission, subject to town meeting approval. There's the motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh,
Thank you,
awesome.
Mary.
Thank you.
All right, and I'm going to take a roll call vote, and I'll do it. By the way, I see your faces on the screen. So Eric, you're first.
Aye.
Brandon,
Aye.
Anna, Matt, if you want to text Brandon.
He really can't vote if he's not voicing his own vote.
Yeah,
So,
true. Okay.
so he'll have to
Well,
abstain.
we have a quorum regardless. So Mary
Yeah.
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So it's unanimous with a quorum,
With one abstention.
with one abstention due to technical difficulties. Excellent. Okay, let's move on to the next item, and this is just kind of open discussion by any of the committee members. Have any other comments, concerns, issues that you want to bring up to the Open Space Committee?
So I do have an item. I don't know if you all follow local boards meetings as I'm following these days. But the planning board had a hearing on proposed development on Sunny Hill Road and on Sunny Hill Road and Leominster Road. And these were the parcels that we didn't exercise our first right of refusal a couple months ago.
Mhm.
And now they actually have a proposed of 5 lots. And one of them coming from Shirley from Leominster Road, and is right by the wetland, that we didn't think they would be able to develop. I mean, not that they haven't got the right to develop, but it is there. And I'm trying to, Mike, do you have your computer with you, Easy?
I
Like your
do.
town email? If I forward you this, would you be able to share the plans?
Sure.
So then we can see, okay. Because I'm having technical difficulties here. All right, so I just forwarded you an email. And the way they're proposing is we won't have, they are developing 4 parcels, with the last one being actually on Sunny Hill, the closest to that part of the wetland, not being developed, which makes me wonder why, because it looks more developed than not. But they are proposing to develop the one on Leominster Road. And so I think maybe on the second page, we'll be able to see it. So those are the developments on Sunny Hill. You have 3 here. And the last one, you can see it has a lot of grading, but they're making a bunch of L's. And if you go into the next page is where the one on Leominster Road. So, I understand. So we actually, as a commission, we didn't have a quorum. We didn't vote on this, as we had some discussion about it. And I think when these things come up, and I agree on using our open space for open space purposes, for creating open space, what are the criteria to buy land? But I think we need to start considering more criteria, because there's nothing, a planning board member said, we're always fighting capitalism because people are really trying to come and make money in town, which is their right. And if the town doesn't doesn't try to exercise this first right to refuse, we're gonna end up with a lot of problems. I mean, I'm sure Matthew can talk about the problem of a development that happened 20 years ago across the street from his house, the house that he grew up. And now there is a new development on the corner. And I know people down the street, a fellow commissioner has a house on Page Street. She's having more and more problems. Every time we develop a piece of land that's near water, we are increasing the speed of water. That's going to go into town land. There's more erosion, more pollution, and it doesn't stop. So I just wanted us to have a more sense of urgency on trying to exercise our first right of refusal, get on the table with these developers and landowners. Maybe we could have my hope was to get on the table with the property owners and say, we want to exercise the first right of refusal here. We want to look into buying. And they could have offered us, just by saying that, they could have offered us some kind of protection. But now what we're looking at is a possible development. And this is the Katamunga Brook. So anyway, that's all. I just want to bring it out to you that I hope the next time we can act more swiftly on these and with more urgency.
Okay, can I ask Mary, can I ask you a question? Has this, the one that's on my screen right now, has this proposal come before the Conservation Commission?
No, it's not yet. I think it may be on the agenda for next week.
November
I
1st.
just went in and looked in the share drive. There's nothing in the share drive. And then when I looked at the, no, I think everybody is aware of how short-staffed we are in the Conservation Commission office. Because it wasn't in the share drive and my agenda draft wasn't available today, I went and looked in the ledger to see if there had been a notice posted in the ledger for the conservation hearing, and I didn't see it either.
Okay, 'cause
So
This
I'm
is
not certain if we
Catacumina
can,
Brook, correct?
yes,
So there's a 200-foot riverfront area.
that's what the way I would understand that as well.
Which doesn't, at least in my quick look at this, does not show on this plan.
I see a line marked 100-foot riverfront area. If you look kind of right above that lot 5 box, there's a label there.
Yep.
Okay,
Where's the lot 5 box? Hover
Oh, and then
your
there's the-
mouse over it.
right
Yeah.
here
And the 200-foot riverfront areas
Goes right
outside
on.
that as well.
is down here. Well, that's the
I'm
buffer.
not sure that's it. I think, but so it's, if you look back to like that lot 5 label and go straight down.
Yeah, I see it right here.
Yeah. So I think it,
So
yeah,
here's the,
yep,
this
exactly.
is the riverfront right here.
Yeah.
Yep. So all this work right here is all in riverfront.
And riverfront is 200 feet.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't look at the other graphic. I'm not as familiar with this one. This one is much further away from the system, from the wetland systems.
Yeah, but they're not developing, in this plan, they're not developing lot 4. And,
Okay,
and, and they,
this lot.
see the last, there is a little entrance, is one with a long, it would be a long driveway. Lot 4 kind of, I mean.
It's right above your cursor, Mike.
Yeah, this is lot 4
Yeah.
back here.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one.
got it. So this is lot 3 down here. Got
Yeah,
it.
right now they're not developing that. I'm not
Okay.
sure if they would have a plan. I mean, they are dealing with a lot of slope there.
So this would be their access coming into lot 4,
Yeah.
coming in this way.
And isn't lot 4 what they retained in the chapter program? Didn't they retain one section of the land in the chapter program?
I actually thought it was a parcel across the wetland from Sunny Hill.
Think so. These lines designation is new. It's not what we saw. I think it was one parcel. Divide up differently when we looked at it.
Okay.
So once we took it out of conservation, they took it out. They went and redrew the lots as they saw fit to put as many houses as possible.
But I think that if my recollection is correct, that they relotted what they took out of chapter 61, what they retained in chapter 61 was lot 4. So that line remains the same, but they relotted everything that they took out.
Right.
So there was a series of lots that they have now sort of shuffled the deck and
Right.
changed the layout of them, but that was all land that was now withdrawn. So I believe lot 4 remains in chapter 61.
Or parts of lot 4, right? Or would that be the whole lot?
And Matt just texted me, he said he's not sure if it's still in chapter or not, so.
Okay.
Um,
And if it is, they're showing grading on that lot.
yeah, which would be done under an easement, which I don't think is, I guess technically would be a change of use, so.
Right.
And the clearing down in the front there,
Yes.
looks like they're clearing for access and grading,
Right. Here's the clearing line.
right?
Right.
Yeah, and they're building the septic behind, so I mean, I don't know a lot of this.
Yeah, Matt's saying it was all withdrawn, sorry.
Yeah,
It
and
was.
and with the septics behind, they, we know there'll be a lot of clearing, a lot of vegetation, and now we're talking about, water going down faster towards the brook. So
I thought I had understood from what Matthew had said before, when we did have an opportunity to talk about it, and I think Anna, I don't think you were able to be on in that meeting, that the kind of the problem with the withdrawals anyway is that the town would have to have executed on the title transfer within 120 days. It's 120 days. And
Yes.
that's almost impossible to do in a situation like this where we have a landowner that's not really motivated to work with us, and a place where we would have to have gotten an assessor to go out and do an assessment for us as well, in order to come up with a fair market value.
So that it was part of that was part of the piece that I brought up. We discussed this in a meeting where we didn't have a quorum, so we weren't able to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. But we did take minutes and submitted minutes on that conversation. One of the sort of interesting things about the way this was being done was, typically under Chapter 61 withdrawal, the landowner typically submits with their notice to withdraw a bona fide offer from another party to purchase, and that establishes the purchase price. In this case, we did not receive such an offer. It was just a notice that they intended to withdraw the property from current use, the Chapter 61 program, and therefore their intention was to change the use of the property, and therefore that triggers our right of first refusal. Their notice was indicating that, but under that circumstance, that means the town then has the right to establish the value that was being taken out of the Chapter 61 program, and through appraisal, and pay that price. What was really interesting is what they were withdrawing from the Chapter 61 program was a section of property that had no usable frontage. It had only the wet frontage on Leominster Road, and it had no frontage on Sunny Hill. And so from a value standpoint, the land, if we were to have had that property appraised, it probably would have appraised at very low value. As unbuildable backland. And but then we would have brought that to the landowner and said, here's the price. And the landowner would have said, because the landowner was proposing this for 4 lots. We would have been, this would have been, a major bone of contention, and very reminiscent to, the Howard Street Chapter 61 withdrawals, or lawsuit after lawsuit kind of thing.
Hold on. I'm sorry, Brent. I kind of disagree a little bit with you on this, because the role of this commission is to make a recommendation. How executable that recommendation is outside our purview. That is not something that we should, in my opinion, consider. Our purview is, do we see value for this as for the town? And that should be where we stop. Can the town pay for? What will town manager have to do to get this appraised? That is not our problem. That is outside this commission. And that's,
I disagree. Part of our recommendation needs to be on executability. And in terms of the number of times, there's only so many times you can go to the well. And in my opinion, there is, I want to save those opportunities for the very best opportunities, because if we go after every single one, there's going to be open space fatigue in town, and the taxpayers are going to say enough is enough. And then when that really important one comes up, you're going to swing and miss. And so I think we have to have a pragmatic approach, and absolutely a pragmatic approach in terms of how we're coming at this, because there's only so many shots. I've seen it in too many communities where you go to them 3 times in a row, 3 town meetings in a row, and they say, how much are you going to do with this? And they stop approving it.
I hear you, but in the same breath that you say that, one, I see this piece as highly valuable because of what it abuts, which is, a very important river. Two, on the same breath that you said that, you also said this would have been a very reasonably priced piece. And
No,
with-
what I
hold
said
on,
was
hold on,
that
I
the
was, hold
the
on.
process would have created
Hold on.
a difference in valuation, in opinion of valuation.
I
The
understand.
appraiser would have seen it one way. The landowner stated in their intention that they saw this as 4 lots. There was no way that was going to appraise as 4 lots because it was backland.
I hear
And
you,
so,
Brandon.
so
But if
you
I
know,
could
there would have been
finish.
this, there would have been conflict built into that process.
I hear you. I'm not disagreeing with you. But one, this is a high impact, valuable piece of resource. This is a very important resource for the town, which is the Catamount Brook. One, you said this would have been, of low value, and you say, oh, it's going to be contentious. We don't need to make the case for the landowner. The landowner will make the case for himself. That is not something we have to do. And three, which is the part that I think I keep saying and you don't acknowledge, which is, for the town to say we have interest on this, it would have brought the landowner to the table to talk with us, to make an agreement and offer some protection. And then maybe that would have been enough. But we bypassed all of that because we decided to not do it. We're not saying we're going to town meeting. We can say this is a valuable piece of land because it's next to a very important resource. And we think there is value in pursuing this. Executing that is outside that. As soon as we would have said that, and I say this from negotiating standpoint, you say you want it. So they will come to you and say, let me give you this protection. And then you get on the table. But we forego even on having that conversation because we said no. And I think that was I do think is a mistake because this is right next to such an important resource. So
It's a very good point, and I acknowledge that.
okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the conversation for a second. Mary's got her hand raised.
Sorry.
Do I?
Yeah.
You better talk now, Mary.
I didn't touch anything.
Oh, maybe I
I
didn't.
don't even see that I have my hand raised.
Okay.
I apologize for inadvertently raising my invisible hand.
Well, now
Okay.
you better talk, Mary.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
No, I appreciate, Brandon, by the way, I appreciate all the value and the information and the knowledge you bring to this. And I hope you appreciate that I'm coming from a place of passion and wanting to protect.
I love the debate, and
Okay.
I'm it's really, really hard to hurt my feelings. So
It's
so
not my
no, I'm
intention.
done.
Okay, it's not my intention, but I
Yeah.
hope you appreciate
We are forewarned.
it's
Yeah.
it's coming from probably a place that you also live at.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion items? Mary, now's your chance if you have another discussion item.
I took a clip of the drawing that you showed just because I'm very interested in the parcel. I was interested in seeing if the town could make a play for it because I do see the Catacootamog Brook as a very important resource. But I also understood all of the dialogue that about the obstacles. And I just in looking, this is my first opportunity to look at that drawing because we don't have it uploaded in the Conservation Commission drive. And I was just looking at that driveway off of the Leominster, Leominster Road, and wondering if I mean, the drawing seems to imply that there is dry access around that parcel from Leominster Road. So I have no further comments other than that. I'm just looking at it and kind of wondering, where that dry access was coming from. It must be there. It must be surveyed.
I forwarded you the plans that I received.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate that.
So Anna, these came from the planning department?
That's right.
Okay. So they are potentially in front of the planning board?
They were this past Monday. I
Okay.
think their next steps are, and the thing with the parcel from the discussions and what I understood, and I wish Matt could talk
Yeah,
because he knows a lot more about it. I believe the parcel on Lemster Road, they do have sewer and town water. So, you know, because of that, they don't need as much space or as much or much of everything else. They are having septic on the Sunny Hill Road parcels. But I think they got everything they needed from planning board. Their next stop is November 1st. They're going to be in front of Mary. So
Yeah, maybe. Again, I didn't see the notices. Maybe they posted the notices the week before, but I didn't see the notices in the Lunenburg Ledger on the 20th. So we'll see. I guess in terms of sharing from the Conservation Commission, it's the fall. There's a lot of trail work happening around the Conservation Commission held parcels. It's an active time. The Lunenburg Snow Riders, which do a lot of our stewardship, are out on the trails doing a lot of work. We have National Honor Society also looking to get out and do work on the trails and in conservation areas, and Boy Scouts also are doing a lot of work. We have 2 grants that we're working on. One that is fully approved with contract executed that the Lunenburg Snow Riders submitted the 2022 grant cycle that does various improvements across conservation land, and then a grant that I submitted 2023 cycle that we've gotten all the approvals done and are now working to execute the contracts for those grants. And that's to do the engineering design work for parking areas in 3 parcels. So all of that's going on, which is a lot. It's a lot given that the staffing shortages right now that are just kind of really problematic in the Conservation Commission area, because there's a lot of routine business that we have to keep moving in order for all the project work and requests to be reviewed and go through the process.
no luck in finding a new administrator, huh?
Apparently not. Yeah, apparently not.
That's too bad.
Yeah, and then of course, but it's public knowledge that Adam Burney resigned, and he had been the supervisor for the Conservation Commission office resources. So we've lost all of the feeding, nurturing support, interim support, knowledgeable office staff there in the office as well. So we really are struggling. But yeah, I think those are the things that I wanted to share on behalf of the Conservation Commission. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mike, if I may, Matt was just reminding us that planning board meets on the 2nd and 4th Mondays. If folks want to participate in the conversations that are happening on that 4 Leominster Road parcel.
Okay.
I guess, I talked about this parcel that's not really parks. One interesting thing, the Parks Commission does have a warrant at special town meeting. And if you read the warrant article, it's a lot that's not doing anything, but it was a requirement that we submitted for a park grant. And we have had good feedback that we have a strong project for Marshall. We requested $500,000, and the article does 3 things. One is reauthorize the use of the $184 that they already assigned to us, and acknowledges that the select board gave us $1 million for the park, which doesn't need a town meeting vote. It says that the Parks Commission and select board can apply for grants, which technically is our town manager who does that. And she does it with the authority given to her by the charter. And the last piece is the one that I can say, oh, okay, that makes sense, is they want a town meeting vote for putting the park into, I think, article, one of the 40 article, 45, 47 article. So that is in perpetuity to be a park. And I
Article
can see-
97.
Yeah, Article 97. Although I agree with that, like this Marshall Park actually does have a deed restriction that has to be forever for park. So it feels redundant, but they said that they wanted this article just the way they want it, and we'll just do it. It will have no impact, like a no vote. All that would accomplish is if they award us the grant, we won't be able to accept it. So, but it was good to hear that we have a strong application. So that's all I have for parks.
Excellent, thank you.
Congratulations in advance. It sounds
Yeah.
very promising. That's really exciting stuff. So that's great work.
Yeah. We are going for the water and land conservation fund next. And we're gonna go for the million. So we'll see how that goes.
Very good. Okay, anybody else? Anything else to add? All right, hearing none. Next is public comment, and I don't have anybody other than the 6 of us in the room. So I'm presuming we don't have any public comment. So the final thing to talk about is the meeting schedule. Since meeting has been postponed a couple of times. It's already the 25th of October. I don't see a burning need to have a meeting on the 8th of November, unless others. Anna, were you just going to say something, or okay?
No.
I was watching you.
No,
So I'm thinking maybe we have our next meeting in the December, the first Wednesday of December. Let me get my calendar up. See if we can figure out when that is.
so that's December 6th. We do have a park meeting schedule.
Okay,
For that day. It's usually on the 2nd, but we are not having a meeting in November because it's going to be the same week as town meeting. So we're just having December 6th. But if I'm not present, I do. You can still have a quorum.
we may or may not, because I may not be able to be there on the 6th. And the 13th, Mary, that's your Conservation Commission night, right? Mary, you muted?
Well, I was talking into mute. So I was responding. You just couldn't hear me. Yeah,
Well,
let me
thank you.
look at the calendar. It sounds like that would be my oh. So we're talking about December, right?
Yeah,
I think Conservation Commission is going to be on the 6th and the 20th.
oh, okay, so maybe the 13th.
Yeah, maybe so.
Matt asked on via text, and I'm wondering the same question too, with special town meeting coming up and all the flurry of activity around that, and then into the holidays. If we don't have any agenda items that we can think of now, should we bother to schedule something in December, or do we want to just look into the new year and skip December as well, given these conflicts that we're talking about here with Parks and Com?
So I wouldn't mind holding, actually, and I was wrong, it wasn't the 6th. Our normal date would be the 13th of December. I wouldn't mind just holding that as a placeholder for now, in case something comes up, like, the discussion that you and Anna were having a little while ago. If something comes up, we actually have a meeting scheduled. And we can always just put a fork in it at that point and say, no, we don't have enough agenda items. Let's reconvene in January after the snow starts falling.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
So the other thing is having that we just had this vote, and I had suggested that maybe we want to have a meeting with select board, because I am very sure they're going to have questions. Is that something we want to also put in our future or plan it around it? And knowing the select board, usually we go to their meetings.
Okay. So as chair, should I approach Heather and get us on an agenda for an upcoming meeting? Or once she gets the recommendation from this board, reach out to her and see if they want to have a meeting with us?
Okay, but as a chair, I think that's good.
Okay.
Is the group okay with that?
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and if it only is a subgroup of us, we have minutes, we made a motion, and it doesn't have to be the whole committee, as otherwise we would have to post it as a meeting, so we could always have ambassadors of the committee show.
There you
show
go.
up.
That's even better.
Perfect.
All right, so let's go ahead and keep the December 13th date and the January 10th dates as our next two meetings. And we'll just play it by ear and see if we have a need to go ahead and do that. And in the meantime, we need to vote on the minutes before we send the recommendation, or can we send the recommendation, Brandon?
We made a motion, so we passed a motion, so we can.
So we can just send
we
it.
can at the very least do that.
Yep.
I will send you the draft minutes. If you want there to be some documentation, they're obviously not approved minutes, but.
Which we'll do at the next meeting, but in the meantime, we can go ahead and send the recommendation since we had a vote in public meeting. Okay. All right, we'll do that. And so if nothing else, we might be voting on minutes on the 13th, but hopefully there's other items to discuss that evening.
Great.
I think that's it, folks. So I entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
In a second.
Second,
Thank you, Mary. All in favor?
We need
Aye.
a
Aye.
roll call.
We need a roll call.
Yes.
Oh, because of
Technically
Zoom.
we do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Eric,
Aye.
Brandon,
Aye.
Anna,
Aye.
Mary,
aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right. I thank you all very much for coming, and we'll just keep moving on.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Brandon.
Bye.
We'll start soon.
Bye.